Xin chào các bạn, hôm nay thầy sẽ nói về cách phát âm tiếng Anh của người Việt Nam. Thầy tên là Baris, thầy sống ở Việt Nam 5 năm rồi. Thầy sống ở thành phố Hồ Chí Minh. Okay, let's start now. We will talk about English pronunciation mistakes of Vietnamese people. The first one is mid vowel. You know, some words have mid vowel E in the middle of them, but Vietnamese people sometimes ignore that. For example, let's say the word cake, but sometimes Vietnamese people say cake. They just remove the E, or they say like make, but it should be make, or tape, ate, date, gate, late, bake, etc. Let me ask you a question. For example, made. Is it A or B? That is A. Made. Another, let. A or B? Now that is B. Let. Let's continue. Number 2. This is long and short E. You know, English has two different E vowels. One is like E and the other one is E. For example, sit, seat, bin, bean, bit, beat, chick, cheek, chip, cheap, fist, feast, fit, feet, greet, greet, hit, hit. Vietnamese people also say that there is long E, they say it like short. For example, they say like cheap. This short is cheap. That's right, it should be cheap. Let me ask you a question and you answer, please. For example, eat. Is it A or B? That is B. Or each. A or B? B again. Each. Okay, let's continue. Good job. Now, number 3. Final consonant. In Vietnamese language, final consonants usually unvoiced or words end with a vowel. But in English, there are voiced consonants. For example, bubble, bowl, feel, and with feel sound, feel. But Vietnamese people sometimes say like feel or bone. They replace L with N, so that's wrong. It should be bowl or people, bottle, or last P, soap, cup, or B, club, lab, clock, pick, or if, laugh, or bad, dad, so final D, or T, boat, hit, again boat. For example, Vietnamese people say boat or boat, cannot say T, or big plus G, big, or block. Let's continue. Okay, next one is P and B sounds. Again, this one is very often confused. For example, pack and back, or pace, base, pay, bay. Again, when I say p, it's like air coming out of my mouth, like pay, or pin, bin, pin, air coming out, or path and bath. Let me ask you a question. Bin, is it A or B? That is B, bin. Or back, back, AB, that is also B, back. Let's continue. Next one, is and it. You know, when words end with an S, sometimes they are pronounced as is. We add one more syllable there. For example, let's say the word bus. We add one more S, like plural bus. There are, let's say, 2 buses, because we cannot say bus. We need to say buses. Or let's say bucks, and bucks, 2 bucks. We cannot say bucks. We need to say boxes. Or change with S, we need to say changes. So change, just changes. Or watch, watches. Finish, finishes. Prize, prizes. So like this, shus. Or final it, again, when we add an ed, like past simple. For example, let's say the word start, and we add ed, we cannot say start. Difficult to say. We need to add one more syllable. We need to say started. Or again, need, ed. Can we say need? No, we need to say needed. needed or wanted, hated, painted, etc. Let's continue. Number 6, TR and CH sounds. Again, in Vietnamese, sometimes Vietnamese people say these two sounds like they are like same, but actually they are different. For example, let's say train, train. But I hear sometimes students say chain, chain. It's wrong. To train, to make it easier, we can say it like train, train, train. It starts with ch and then rain, because we shouldn't forget r there. Next, truck, truck. We have chuck, but it's different word. So when you say truck, like again, truck, truck, we can say truck. But of course, not truck, truck. There's a slight difference, slight T there. Let's continue. Number 7, S and sh sounds. S is very similar to X in Vietnamese, like you say sa, which means far, sa. Same, we say like see, I see, or sign. And the version is she or shine, and sip, ship. Let me ask you a question, and you say A or B. Shoe, maybe that is B, shoe, not Sue. Or soar, soar, A-B, that is A, soar, not shore. Let's continue. Number 8, consonant-vowel linking. Again, when we speak English or when we read something, it's better to read in a flow, not reading words separately. For example, let's say turn on the light. We should say like turn on the light. But sometimes Vietnamese people say turn on the light. That's wrong. We should say turn on the light. Or let's say that's an apple. That's an apple. We should say that's an apple. That's an apple. We shouldn't say that's an apple. That's wrong. Or 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. We should say 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. We shouldn't say 10 hours a day. That's wrong. Next, syllable and word stress. In English, some words have different stresses in each syllable. Nouns and adjectives in 2-syllable words, usually the first syllable is stressed. For example, money, money, or pencil, or doctor, picture, water, or happy, yellow. Verbs, usually if there are 2 syllables, usually the second syllable is stressed. For example, arrive, decide, repeat. And 3 syllables, the stress can be anywhere. We cannot say it here. And also some like word collocations with 2 words. For example, let's say air conditioner. We should say air conditioner, air conditioner. But sometimes I hear students say air conditioner. That's wrong. Or let's say window shopping. We should say window shopping. Sometimes students say window shopping in same tone. That's wrong. Let's continue. The last one is sentence stress and intonation. Again, when we read a sentence, some words, usually nouns, verbs, adjectives, are stressed, and pronouns or small words like I or a and the, of, the, to, they are not stressed. For example, I want a cup of coffee. I want a cup of coffee. I want a cup of coffee. So I say want, strong, cup, strong, and coffee, strong. They are stressed. Or another example is, he will be late for the lesson. So like late, lesson. And I don't stress other words. He will be late for the lesson. Now this one, you find which words are stressed. I will go to the supermarket and buy some meat. Here, think about it. So go, supermarket, buy, and meat. I will go to the supermarket and buy some meat. And also, so I stress go, supermarket, buy, meat, so verbs and nouns. And also an extra, at the end of sentence, usually we need to finish in low tone. Also in Vietnamese speakers, I usually hear they finish in normal tone. That's wrong. For example, buy some meat. That's wrong. It should be buy some meat, finish. Or for the lesson. For the lesson, I hear for the lesson. That's wrong. It should be for the lesson. Or I hear cup of coffee. Wrong. It should be cup of coffee. low tone. Only very rare, like yes no questions and in high tone. For example, let's say, are you a student? It can be in high tone. Okay, that's about it today. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, you can write as a comment, or you can write me on my Zalo or on my Instagram. And also, I'm giving English lessons, group or private lessons, online or offline, in Ho Chi Minh City. And also, please don't forget to subscribe. I will upload more English related videos. If you want to improve your English, you can watch my videos and you will be better. Goodbye.